Awesome. Let me go ahead and share my screen with y'all. Sweet. All right. Dr. Rhea, is it okay if I start already or?
Yep, go for it.
Cool, making sure. All righty, guys, welcome to my presentation. The topic I chose to cover today is parenting juvenile delinquency. Oh, oops. All righty. So today's presentations will be covering juvenile delinquency statistics in the U.S., Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and Parents Anonymous, excuse me, parental low self-control, family environments, and juvenile delinquency, juvenile interventions in the U.S., and juvenile delinquency in Chinese adolescents. So we'll begin with real-world examples, starting off with juvenile delinquency statistics in the U.S. So the term juvenile is described as juvenile delinquency is an unlawful behavior by a minor. The age varies from state to state. Juveniles are either under the age 17 or 18. Juvenile crimes include public order offenses, such as drug violations, property offenses, burglary, theft, person offenses, assault, robbery, rape, and homicide. So, according to the Juvenile Court Statistics Report by the National Center for Juvenile Justice, the categories of offenses most commonly handled by juvenile courts include simple assault, which was accounted for 20% of cases in 2018, which were including unlawful intentional infliction or threaten or attemptions and affliction, bodily injury with or without a deadly dangerous weapon, drug law violations, which accounted for 14% of cases in 2018, which is either purchasing, selling, distributing, manufacturing, possession of drugs, and transportation. Larceny, which accounted for 13% of cases back in 2018, which is unlawful taking of property. Obstruction of justice, which accounted for 12% in 2018, which includes intentional obstruction of court or law enforcement, failing to obey a lawful court order, escaping from confinement, or violating parole or probation. And disorderly conduct, which accounted for 6% of cases in 2018, includes the unlawful interruption of the order, peace, or quiet of a community, which means like disturbing of the peace, loitering, or riot. Excuse me. Other offenses that occurred in 2018 were burglary, vandalism, assault, trespassing, robbery, or weapon offenses. So the juvenile delinquency statistics by state, West Virginia, Wyoming, Oregon, Alaska, and South Dakota have the highest juvenile custody rates, according to the Sentencing Project. The rate is defined as the number of youth in the juvenile system per 100,000 youths per in the state. Sorry, let me rephrase that again. The rate is defined as the number of youth in the juvenile system per 100,000 youth in the state. Connecticut, Hawaii, Vermont, New Hampshire, and North Carolina have the lowest rate, according to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. More statistic facts of juvenile delinquency is between 2009 and 2018, the number of cases handled by juvenile courts in the U.S. decreased by 48%. 1,995 children are arrested in the U.S. each day. More than 728,000 children were arrested in the US in 2018. So continuing with more statistics, white youth account for more than 60% of juvenile arrests. Male youth account for 70% of juvenile arrests. There are more than 1,500 juvenile correctional facilities in the US. So I wanted to share with you all, get rid of that. I wanted to share with you all this pie chart that I have found. The pie chart comes from the prisonpolicy.org website, which was created in 2018. The pie chart shows that over 48,000 of youth are held in facilities away from home as a result of juvenile or criminal justice involvement. You would see different facilities where youth are being placed, ranging from highest population number to the lowest population number. The facilities are as followed: detention centers, long-term secure facilities, residential treatment, adult prisons and jails, group homes, ranch/wilderness camps, shelters, diagnostic centers, boot camps, and Indian countries. Of the 43,000 youth in the juvenile facilities, more than 2/3, which is 69%, are 16 and older. What is actually more alarming is that more than 500 confined children are no more than 12 years old. According to the prison policy, the type of facility where a child is confined can affect their health, safety, access to service, and outcomes upon reentry. As you can see in the chart, youth are able to be placed in adult prisons and jail, which I find that to be very alarming. And it's known to be the worst places for youth to be in confinement, due to them not being designed to provide age-appropriate services for children and teens. The facility may separate the youth from the prison population by placing the youth in solitary confinement, which has been proven to impact an individual's mental well-being. Youth who are placed in adult facilities are 5 times more likely to commit suicide than those who are placed in juvenile facilities. The reason why I wanted to share these statistics with you all is to show you that there is an issue with this population. And I feel like this is a population that needs more of a mental health approach. Alrighty, so leaders in the issue. There are two organizations that have come together to promote shared leaderships and mutual support in ethnical and culturally diverse settings throughout the country, which these two organizations are called Office of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, or OJJDP, and Parents Anonymous. But before I tell you what their collaboration is about, I'm going to give you details on both organizations real quick. So the OJJDP was founded in 1974 to create efforts in preventing youth delinquency, to protect children and improve the juvenile justice system. They sponsor research programs and training initiatives to develop priorities and goals set on policies to guide federal juvenile justice issues. And they even provide education about juvenile justice issues. On their website, their vision statement is as follows. The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention envisions a nation where our children are free from crime and violence. If they are to come in contact with the justice system, the contact should be rare, fair, and beneficial to them. As of January 20th, 2021, the acting administration of OJJDP is Cheryl Jones. So on with Parents Anonymous Incorporation. They were funded in 1970 by a parent who was seeking help in creating a safe and caring home for her own children, and also by a social worker who believed parents are capable of change. Parents Anonymous is the oldest national child abuse prevention organization. The focus of Parent Anonymous is to strengthen families through programs that promote mutual support and parent leadership. Parent Anonymous currently leads a dynamic national network of affiliated community-based groups. Let's see. Each wait, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So, anyways, they have weekly meetings for parents and children. Each year, about 100,000 parents and their children attend the Parent Anonymous group to learn new skills, transfer their attitudes and behaviors, and create a long-term positive changes in their lives. Parent Anonymous also responds to the diverse needs of families, such as married, single, step parents, teenage parents, and divorced parents. So with the Parent Anonymous, they have a group model that they developed, where the meetings that they have for parents, parents can attend to discuss communication, discipline, child development, parental roles, effective strategies for children to develop independence and self-control, healthy coping skills to deal with everyday stresses of parenting and any other issues that affect parenting behavior. In order to establish their newly developed skills, parents practice their new behaviors at home and discuss the outcome at the meeting each week. So now the collaboration between Parent Anonymous and OJJDP. They've been working together since 1994 to advance the Parents Anonymous group model. So on their website, they state that positive parenting practices appear to act as a buffers by preventing delinquent behavior and assisting adolescents involved in such behavior to avoid continued delinquency. Children raised in supportive, affectionate, and accepting homes are less likely to become deviant. Children who are rejected by their parents grow up in an abusive household with large amount of conflict with no proper supervision and are greater risk of becoming delinquents. Children's behavior has a role in this dynamic. Children who are troublesome are more likely to be rejected by parents, creating an escalating cycle that may lead to delinquency. Alrighty. Next, we're moving on to my literature review that I selected, which is parental low self-control, family environments, and delinquency. So, a quick background of the article is that it focuses on research where data was collected to investigate the connection between parental low self-control, aspects of family environments, and juvenile delinquency. The research also covers the influence of family environments and the connection between parental low self-control and delinquency. The research was based on reports provided by parents of adolescents who have been officially processed through a juvenile justice facility, whereas the measure of delinquency is an official count of misdemeanor and felony charges of each adolescent. The research uses the self-control theory as a reference in understanding the connection between low self-control and how it correlates with delinquency. A quick background of what the self-control theory is, it is known as the general theory of crime, which was created by M.R. Gottfredson and Hershey. The theory was created on what was known from research about criminal events and criminals. The theory was developed to explain in general through times, persons, and situations. For the purpose of the study, the authors depended on using self-control theory to support their findings. So in their article, self-control theories is used to create a connection to parenting practices and family functioning in relation to juvenile delinquency. The theory emphasizes the importance of the roles parents play in socializing children to refrain from abnormal and antisocial behavior. In the article, it states that self-control is the ability to override immediate impulses to replace them with responses that adhere to higher order standards that typically follow from values, social commitments, and interests in long-term well-being. It is negatively correlated with delinquency, crime, and other forms of deviant behavior. The theory views juvenile delinquency as the effect of negative emotions being anger, anxiety, depression, when individuals find themselves unable to achieve positive value goals. These negative emotions provide motivation for deviant acts as a way to relieve internal suffering. Children with a lack of self-control are at risk of delinquent behavior and will probably continue on the deviant path in adult life. So how do children develop into having high self-control? It begins with having parents who are high in self-control themselves, excuse me. So parents who are high self-control are more likely to be affectionate towards their children, who are also involved while establishing healthy boundaries with their children while implementing disciplinary practices in the home. These are crucial factors in instilling self-control in our children, resulting in having children who will grow up to have a high self-control by the time children reach adolescence. A large number of studies address whether various types of parenting, such as attachment, monitoring, and discipline, are correlated with adolescent delinquency, with the outcome of many studies indicating there is a connection between these factors. So other studies have shown supporting the idea that family functioning is important for understanding why some adolescents become involved in delinquent behavior, whereas others do not. All righty. So the article also explains parents who do not have any low self-control are more than likely to fail at implementing self-control in their children. Parents with low self-control are less effective at fostering a warm and nurturing family environment with effective parenting practices while improperly supervising and disciplining behavior, resulting in low self-control children who engage in delinquency. There are evidence to show a continuation of antisocial behavior being passed down through generations. Parental stress and parental criminal behavior is correlated with ineffective parenting in adolescent delinquency. Parental stress also appears to provide partial explanation for these outcomes as well. Excuse me. So why do parents fail at these things? The whys. So parents with low self-control typically are impatient individuals who are selfish and lack the ability to put their children's needs ahead of their own. Parents are often short-tempered, which creates a hostile family environment where shouting and yelling are most likely occurs, with the answer to resolving any conflict is through corporal punishment. Parents are incapable of recognizing delinquency, and when it is noticed, parents are illogical and unpredictable with their disciplinary practices. Parents with low self-control may have a negative impact on family functioning. For example, parents may not spend quality time with their children, such as reading to them, due to the task being uninterested to the parent. Overall, indicating children who have parents who are low in self-control are more likely to be exposed to more hostile and less nurturing family environments. Now, we will be reviewing juvenile delinquency through an application of system perspective, which I chose juvenile delinquency, welfare, justice, and therapeutic interventions. So let's see. Now, according to the review article that I am mentioning right now, they talk about how 2/3 of male juveniles in the US meet the criteria for at least one psychiatric disorder. So right now we're going to be doing an activity. Similar to my previous presentation, we'll be using menti.com. So with your phones or computers, if you will go to menti.com and enter the code at the top of the screen, 56411624. to enter this Menti discussion. Once you are there, I would like you guys to please name any disorders you believe is diagnosed in the male juvenile offenders. So let me go ahead and exit my presentation so I could display the results area. Oops. Wait, are you guys still able to see it? I think it says sharing is paused. Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. Wait, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen to see if it'll come up because I'm not too sure why it was not coming up. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Is everybody? Oh, nice, cool. Yeah, so nice. Yeah, I decided to make a word bubble for us. So if you guys have any other disorders that come to mind, by all means, feel free to add it in. That's okay. Okay, so I'm seeing bipolar, depression, drugs, ODD, ADHD, PTSD, substance abuse disorder. I wish we were doing this in person because if people enter the same answer, the words just get bigger. So I wouldn't doubt that if we would see some of these disorders to come up and be bigger than some of the rest. Anyways, I think that's the majority of us. So does anybody want to share as to why they picked these disorders? What comes to mind?
I'd like to share. So one of the things that comes to my mind when you think about juvenile offenders, when you were talking about, okay, well, why, the challenges with parents with low self-control. And I'm like, well, why do they have low self-control? And thinking about environmental factors, such as toxic stress, adverse childhood experiences, talking about issues with emotional self-regulation. I think there are a bunch of different contributing factors that can lead to issues such as post-traumatic stress disorder, depression. When it comes to people of color, I think there's an over diagnosis potentially of oppositional defiant disorder. And I really think that that's kind of masking for like trauma response and like attachment issues, and a lot of different health issues can be connected with that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your input, Laura. I really liked how you gave your input on how these different disorders could be a factor as to the child's environment and how they develop. That's a really interesting insight that you shared with us. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to share? All righty, cool. Well, thank you guys. I do appreciate you guys for participating in this activity. Now let's see if I'm able to jump back to my presentation without having to stop to share. And I am not. I am so sorry. I am not that tech savvy over Zoom yet. 2 years in the pandemic and I still haven't figured it out completely. So thank you. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay. Cool beans. Okay, cool. So according to the review, let's see. Rates of mental health problems among juvenile offenders are significantly higher than in non-offending peers, with 2/3 of male juvenile offenders in the U.S. meeting the criteria for at least one psychiatric disorder. Common disorders are PTSD, mood/anxiety disorders, and self-harm and conduct disorders. Not that the disorders that you all just shared in that discussion were wrong. These are just happen to be the most common according to the article. 1 in 5 juvenile offenders is estimated to suffer from severe functional impairment as a result of their mental health problems. These needs are often unmet. Additional concern are the reported associations between mental health problems and mortality in incarcerated juveniles, including an elevated suicide rate for males. Mental health issues must be a target and interventions for juvenile offenders. However, treatment which focuses solely on clinical problems are unlikely to result in benefit for delinquent behavior, meaning the behavior won't necessarily change. So there is a clear need that it is clear that effective interventions should address both the clinical and criminal, both the clinical and the delinquent behavior needs of these individuals. So going over PTSD, estimate regarding the prevalence of PTSD among juvenile offenders suggests that 20 to 23% meet the clinical criteria, where with prevalence rates significantly higher among females than males, which was 40% versus 17%. 62% of the youth experiencing trauma within the first 5 years of life, and up to 93% experiencing at least one traumatic event during adolescence or childhood. So treatment, according to the article, a trauma-focused emotion regulation intervention, also known as Target, has received support for use in this population. Target resulted in nearly twice as much reduction in PTS symptom severity as compared to other treatments. Addition to significant reduction in depression, behavioral disturbances, and increase in optimism. So, mood, anxiety disorders, and self-harm. Juveniles in the US present with a higher prevalence of mood anxiety disorders. 67% of females and 41% of males. With self-harm, it was with 11% in females and 7% in males. And history of suicide attempts, which was 33% of females and 22% in males. Interesting note about this statistic facts in this category in general. It was actually the same kind of rates for the UK and Switzerland. So these three have in common. So treatment regarding these disorders is CBT also resulted in significant greater improvements in the symptoms of depression and social functioning. Dialectical, DBT, behavioral therapy, has also been reported to significantly reduce incidents of physical aggression in a juvenile population and among juvenile non-offenders. It also reduced in suicidal ideation within the non-offending population. So this article, they didn't provide any statistic facts of conduct disorder in youth, but the article did provide a therapy approach to use when treating the disorder in juveniles. The article explains how relationships with family and peers are recognized as key factors in juvenile offenders. Multi-systematic therapy, MST, is a family-focused intervention targeting characteristics relating to antisocial behavior, including family relationships and peer associations. Evidence from both the US and the UK claim that the MST is the most beneficial intervention for youth in this population. MST was also associated with significant reduction in the likelihood of reoffending, and also less likely to become involved in serious and violent offending. Important key components for successful intervention of MST includes the quality of the therapeutic relationship and ability to re-engage the offender with the educational system. So just getting the client back into school. Well, multicultural consideration, I chose to view juvenile delinquency in Chinese adolescents. So juvenile delinquency in Chinese adolescents, the article provides a systematic summary of the influential factors relating to Chinese juvenile delinquent behaviors. The studies were conducted in mainland China, but were also in Hong Kong and Taiwan. Juvenile delinquency is viewed as an emerging social problem in China. The research on juvenile delinquency has two objectives. One is to explore the factors relating to juvenile delinquent behaviors. And the second is to make recommendation for further research, in programs in the context of Chinese social and cultural settings. Mainly in Hong Kong, only a handful of studies have applied Western theories to investigate delinquency among Chinese adolescents. The article does talk about how the findings in the summary indicate that micro, meso, echo, and macro levels are associated with increased delinquency in youth. But for the sake of time on the presentation, I wanted to focus on the micro level, which is defined by Bronfenbrenner, that the microsystem level is a pattern of activities, social roles, and interpersonal relations that commonly occur in direct environment in which the individual is embedded. According to the article, juvenile offender daily interactions with people and social groups are directly associated with their behavior. The article considers 4 factors at the microsystem level The article considers 4 factors at the microsystem level to the individual adolescents, which are youth characteristic, parent-child relationship, peer relationships, and school attachment. So micro level youth characteristics, the article focuses on gender, age, and self-control as part of characteristics. Male adolescents are more likely to commit delinquent acts than female adolescents, which is also the same thing in Western studies. Chinese studies have inconsistent findings that they have inconsistent findings of the age affected of adolescent delinquent behavior, but they do report that the prevalence of violent behavior declines as age increases among high school students in Hong Kong and Taiwan. Coincidentally, the article also looks at the self-control theory when it talks about self-control in youth. So self-control has been shown to be a strong and consistent predictor of crime and delinquency in Chinese studies. The article also mentions a study where 1,043 school students in Hangzhou found that juveniles who lack self-control have a higher rate of smoking, drinking, vandalism, weapon carrying, group fighting, aggression, gang involvement, pathological gambling, substance use, theft, and violent crimes. Findings in Hong Kong and mainland China have indicated that healthy parental-child attachment can be effective in preventing adolescents from engaging in delinquent behaviors, while poor parent-child bonding tends to indicate a higher tendency towards delinquent behavior. Inadequate parental bonding may be more conducive to violent conduct in male adolescents and theft-related behavior among theft-related behavior among female adolescents. The controlling parental style has been found to lead conflict and misunderstanding because children desire for independence. The article finds that Chinese adolescents associating with delinquent peers increases risk in engaging in delinquency. Their results imply that negative peer influences is significantly stronger among males than females. Adolescents who interact with negative peers are considered more likely to engage in delinquent behavior, which in turn causes them to have a greater tendency to join gangs. The article also stated that negative influence of delinquent peers was not easily counteracted by the negative influence of delinquent peers was not easily counteracted by positive parental attachment. It wasn't easily counteracted. It's possible, but it won't be easy. There we go. The article states how strong school attachment reduces the likelihood of delinquency, whereas students who have negative relationships with their teachers have reported a greater likelihood of delinquency. School commitment and academic achievement have been proven to be significant factors of negative school behavior among students. The article discusses how there is a link between school failure and delinquency. The reason for this may be that students who do poorly in school tend to suffer a great amount of stress, which may motivate them to turn to delinquency for relief of stress. In conclusion, wait. Oh no, wait. Sorry, I lost track of my notes real quick. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure if I skipped the slide or. Okay. Anyways, the article. Wait, did I? Yeah, excuse me. So going back to delinquency prevention, the article does mention that delinquency prevention should incorporate the following. It should be gender specific so that the different needs of males and female offenders can be addressed, which they do contradict several Western studies that indicate girls suffer more from severe mental health problems than boys. Delinquency prevention should also include coping strategies to deal with stress and frustration. Family-based approaches like parent management training, PMT, should also be included, which is an effective intervention for adolescents with delinquent behaviors, which attempts to change parenting strategies to reduce abusive behaviors and using discipline to develop clear standards for children's behavior. Delinquency prevention should implement peer-based prevention, which focuses on teaching youth how to reduce contact with delinquent friends, reduce contact with delinquent friends, resist influence from delinquent friends, and increase the development of pro-social skills. So in conclusion, sorry about that. We learned that self-control is correlated with juvenile delinquency. Influencing factors are parents, peers, and school performances. High self-control in youth decreases likelihood of delinquency. Rates of mental health problems among juvenile offenders are higher. 2/3 of male juvenile offenders in the US meet the criteria for at least one psychiatric disorder. And intervention should address both mental health issues and delinquent behavior. And best treatment approaches are CBT, DBT, and MST. And that is my presentation. Let me stop recording.